I am a Marvel fan. From comics, to video games, to animated series, to the movies, I'm a big fan of it all and have been for quite some time. But additionally, I've been a fan of the live action series that debuted on Netflix. I've been a fan of it all, but most importantly in that lineup, I've been a fan of the Daredevil series. Now this Daredevil series serves to do a lot of things as far as creating dope content, but most importantly to me, it brought forth a lot of characters who are popular for a lot of comic book fans, and maybe some people that have watched some of the animated series or maybe kept up with some of the video games. Characters like Elektra, for prime example. But there's another character within the Marvel universe that I think could be a part of this next season that's coming out and make this show not just great, but probably the best thing on television. Interested in finding out who that is and how he can be implemented? Stay tuned.
You're now watching The Captain.
Now, there have been a lot of status quo changes within the MCU that a lot of people are highly anticipating. One of those being the entrance of the mutants. Yes, the people with the good old X gene will be coming very soon, and we've been trying to figure out how this is going to happen. And not just how it'll happen, but what mutants are going to be introduced first and foremost, and what mutants are going to be taking the front and center stage. Are we going to be doing what we did with the original X-Men movies and just have Wolverine plastered everywhere and have him be the driving force for all the mutants? I mean, watching Deadpool 3, it seems like that may be a possible case with how important he seemed in that movie. But moving forward within the verse, there are going to be a bunch of characters that have either been announced to be mutants or that will become mutants, or even some that may be revealed that will be there the whole time. There is one mutant though that I think will help to change the status quo of this Daredevil season in Daredevil Born Again, and that character is a character by the name of Daken Akihiro. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering, who the hell is Daken Akihiro and why should I care about this character? Well, I'm glad you asked. Now, before I can tell you who Daken is, we must go back to a very important character in Marvel history, that being Wolverine. Wolverine, obviously, as you know, is very old and has experienced a lot in the history of the Marvel comics. In this particular instance, in 1946, he was tired of all the war, all the fighting, all the manipulation that he felt in his life, and decided to settle down in Jasmine Falls, Japan. Now, while settled down there, he found him a wife, he was living happy, and over time, they were pregnant with their first child. Obviously, as most Wolverine stories go, he can't be happy for too much longer. One day, a character by the name of Romulus, who has a big history with Wolverine over time and has manipulated him into doing different things, he wanted Wolverine to get back into the game and come out of retirement, which means that he has to get rid of his happy family. So in order to do that, he ordered the Winter Soldier, yes, the same Winter Soldier you're all familiar with, to go and murder his wife. And while his wife lay dead on the floor, Romulus then does the unthinkable and takes the unborn baby from her womb and walks off with it. He then proceeds to give the baby to a wealthy Japanese family and gives him the name Akihiro. But as he grew up under the roof, the servants as well as the resentful kids coined a new name for the half-Asian boy, Daken, which translates to mongrel in Japanese. For people that aren't aware, mongrel dogs are this essentially really nasty mixed breed dog that people don't really give a lot of credence to, at least in that point in time in history, because they weren't pure, they didn't have a lot of honor, all that good stuff. But as you can imagine, all this hate over time and all this resentfulness that built up in the house kind of made Daken kind of sour, and over time his true colors showed. Daken one day overheard his foster mother say that she didn't love him at all, and that was the last straw for him. He then coolly and collectively took the life of their newborn baby. And in a fit of rage, the mother tried to retaliate, and in a big emotional moment, Daken realized something that he never knew about himself. He had an X gene. Daken, in that moment, popped his bone claws and accidentally murdered his foster mother. And upon his foster father finding the whole scene, he then took his own life because he just couldn't handle all that had happened. Now, I bet you're wondering, Captain, this character has a dark backstory, but you know, what makes them worthy of being within the MCU or the television shows? Well, I'm glad you asked. Daken has a unique skill set and set of abilities that makes him very uniquely attributed to being a great character in not just the MCU, but really in these shows like Daredevil that are more grounded and street level, that require characters to be a little bit more witty and in some instances grittier. Off top, Daken has the bone claw abilities that you noticed that his father has, but additionally he has his father's healing factor as well. And additionally to the healing factor, Daken has this extra ability that makes him very unique, pheromone manipulation. He essentially can manipulate his own pheromones to make himself more attractive to different people and also make them a little bit easier to manipulate and more suggestive in nature. Obviously, Daken being bisexual, he uses this on men and women to kind of get information he needs or get people to do what he needs them to do or even get into certain places. And most prevalently, get them into bed. Now, that being the case, you're taking somebody that has the gruff and physical fighting and just overall nature of a Wolverine. You're combining in a very seductive, suggestive ability in pheromone manipulation, and you're also giving him the slickest mouth possible, where he's really witty and sarcastic in his dialogue, where he goes toe-to-toe witty banter with characters like Mystique in the comic books. Now take all these things that describe this character and imagine him in a Daredevil series. Crazy, right? Now, that being said, if maybe that's not enough proof for you on how dope he is as a character, let's move into one of his most prevalent and I think my favorite run by him that he had, called Daken the Dark Wolverine. Essentially, Daken is on this journey to reinvent himself and do things on his own and not live under the shadow of his father. How does he do that? He decides to take over Madripoor. If you've been watching the MCU up until this point, you've been amazed of what Madripoor is. It's this really grim, lawless, dark city, kind of similar to Singapore, I believe, but a lot more crime and violence goes down there. We saw this in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and we've been there before. We've seen how messed up this city is. But in the comics, it's that plus some. Daken then proceeds to go into the city and take it over from the bottom up, being the master of Madripoor. Now, throughout this run, you're seeing him shake and move, manipulate, murder, and just betray a lot of people along the way, and also encounter a lot of dope characters along the way. This run is something that I definitely want to see on screen at some point. But all that aside, and my fanboying out aside of the character, things in this run can be directly attributed to what will make a dope season for a Daredevil show. So imagine taking this character and all the abilities and acumen he has and the motivation he had to take over Madripoor in the comics, but you're dropping this character in New York City. So not only do you have the two opposing forces of Kingpin and Daredevil going against one another, but now you have this third party who's a lot more devious than the other two, in my opinion. So his part in the season would be very similar to what they did in the first season with the Punisher. You have him and Kingpin going at it, and this third party character makes an appearance who is not only a threat that they weren't expecting, but can overall almost really be the biggest threat to the whole storyline, maybe even having Kingpin and Matt teamed up together at some point. Because this character has the physical acumen to go toe-to-toe with a guy like Daredevil to fight him, but also has the street knowledge and the knowledge of the underworld to take power from the Kingpin and take over the city. If you drop him into this as well, you have a lot of opportunities for a lot of dope fight scenes. Again, keep in mind, this is the character that has Wolverine's healing factor. So you can do crazy things like chop off hands from him, blow him up in buildings, and do all kinds of crazier stuff, and he will come right back. Hell, there's an instance in the Dark Wolverine run where him as well as X-23 get blown up point blank by a bomb, and they're walking out of the explosion site as their skin is regrowing on their body. So imagining a moment like that shown on the big screen could be really dope, or even shown on streaming services at home. If this character is done correctly and the right time and attention is put into him, he could be the best and favorite character in the MCU for a lot of people. Not only will he have a slick, witty banter like Tony Stark, but he also have the dope fight scenes like a Captain America, and he could also teeter that line of good and evil whenever he would want it to be. It's a character that could cross over into a lot of different people's stories and movies and shows and just make it better over time. He could be this shady person that a lot of people within the shows either hate or love to hate, and he could just be a recurring factor. I don't know. I just think Daken is a dope character and deserves a little bit more attention, and the perfect vehicle for him to be introduced would be a grounded city level show like Daredevil, where you're not giving them too much pressure of being in a big mainstream movie, but you can also add him in and bring him along. And then because his abilities are so grounded as well, like with his father, you don't have to spend an absorbent amount of money for his fight scenes, because you just have to worry about the bone claws, healing factor, and the pheromones, one of which you don't even have to show in a physical way on scene through like the smoke. It could just be him talking to people. Now, this being said, the script would have to be airtight and written very well, like the Daredevil scripts have mostly been up until this point. And in bringing in this character, he can replace a lot of the things that a Punisher brought in, and even things that Elektra brought in regards to being that rogue person can actually be a lot more useful in combat. All the glazing aside, I just wanted to give genuine interest into a character that I think has been really underutilized within comics. I feel like we have this bad trend in the MCU and in the comics to over rely on characters who are just big names. And in some instances, we have people doing a great job with something like a James Gunn bringing forth the Guardians of the Galaxy and making them a household name, characters who were C-list characters at best at one point in time, but used correctly, and now they become arguably the biggest things within that universe. Daken, I think, can be another hidden gem like the Guardians. If he's done correctly, I think there's a lot of dope stuff you can do with him, and I really want to see more of that character used versus being really reliant on characters like Tony Stark's Iron Man to being Doctor Doom to kind of bring forth a lot of different things in MCU to kind of revitalize the passion people have for it. If they can bring forth a lot of these C-list characters and make them household names, that will be amazing for the health of the MCU going forward. And there's a lot of characters like that. There's a lot of characters that are C-list characters, not because of the quality of the characters, but just because they're underutilized in big stories and they don't push them in the right ways. They don't push them enough. So again, y'all let me know in the comment section below, were you aware of who Daken Akihiro was? And if you were, let me know your favorite moment from him. And if not, hey y'all, check out Dark Wolverine. The storyline's already done. The book, I believe, is already done. All the issues have been released. So do me a favor, check it out. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Before I get up out of here, y'all, I want to talk about a product from the sponsor of this video. As you guys have maybe noticed, I've been wearing some new drip in the video, man. New dope t-shirt. And I have to shout out my guys over at the Highly Medicated Meditation Club. My guy Strawhead Jufy has a bunch of dope designs in his shop that you guys can find online, and all these shirts are put in some dope packaging, man. I got this dope looking package, bro. The designs on it are all originally created by him, and he has a bunch of dope stuff that you guys should probably check out, man. If you guys are interested in this shirt or any of the other products he has, because he has shirts and shorts as well, and I believe some hats, maybe joggers and hoodies as well. If you guys are interested in any of those products, you can find it in the link in the video below. But and all that being said, y'all, thank y'all for watching the video. It has been Captain Diesel of Captain Diesel's Dojo, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.